And welcome into another episode of Beyond the Forecast. Rob Lindenmuth here with Kevin Appleby. We're both dressed up this week because we got shows to do later today, but it was a good week off, so I'm glad. I'm happy to be back. It's always one of those weird things, Kevin. I think you might agree, where it's like you love being on vacation, you love everything about it, but then you get to a point where you're like, all right, I'm kind of ready to come back.
My first impression of you outside of visiting the station, like the first time I got to work with you, you were just returning from a week off.
Yep.
And you were just so like, I can't believe I'm back. I know it's good to be back, but I was just away.
Yes.
I was just in like sunshine.
I was in Cape Cod that week, and then this week I was in Vermont. We were right on the lake every day. It was like, not every day. I wasn't gone the whole week.
Tough.
But 4th of July weekend, yes, we were on the lake every day, and I'm like, I could get used to this. So aside from that, I'm like ready to be back. And it was, I missed the cats. You just miss your normal routine, So
get sick of it.
Glad to be back. Unfortunately, it was like I came back and summer decided to leave us for a couple of days.
Well, yeah. You missed a lot of fireworks. And I'm not talking about the ones for 4th of July.
I saw none. Actually, I take that back. Wednesday night, I was home. That was probably one of the worst storms I've seen at night in a long time. I know you guys had several rounds of that last week, but that was, continuous lightning.
I love that.
And the wind, at one point, I almost grabbed the animals and ran because the wind, I thought a tree was coming right into the living room because the wind did pick up quite a bit.
Don't like that. I like the lightning part. I don't like the wind.
And it was funny because I was outside, I was watching it come in. I don't have an overhang. So I'm like, all right, I'm starting to feel a little bit of the rain. I had the gust front ahead of the storm. And then I'm looking at the radar and I go, they're going to warn this. It was bowing out. And I'm like, I need to get inside. So I went inside. And as soon as I went in, that's when the warning came up. So that was pretty fun.
I love looking at radar and being like, oh, this isn't good. And then boop.
And then it goes right off. So obviously, we talked a lot about the heat, Kevin, just
Rightfully
now.
so. It was nuts.
So we're going to recap last week's heat in this week's episode. But we are going to put that into perspective. Because yes, it was high. You have some tidbits that you shared, I think, last week as well. We didn't throw it into the show, but rare. You can mention that.
Not every summer, that's for sure.
We'll look a little bit at last week's severe weather. So we're not really going to go in detail about last week's severe weather, but we did get some questions on what the difference between a tornado or a microburst is. So we've got some graphics to explain that. And then a lot of rain for some. We'll talk about that too. So
definitely not everybody.
I know you said you were turning white. You weren't pulling your hair out. What you said.
Well, so. I for a few reasons. I mean, I knew the rain gradient was going to be incredibly tight, and it was. But I joked with Steve, and on his Facebook post, I said, if this was snow, my hair would turn into Cap's color.
Yeah. See, mine is like I'm just going to lose more of it. So there's that. So, Kevin, you were here for this.
Yeah.
If you want to kind of take some of these numbers away.
Sure.
I went through the data. Some of them, these were the highest that I trust. There were a couple in there that seemed just didn't seem correct. So,
Broad Alban and Scotia, 115-degree heat index. Argyle, 114. Williamstown, Mass. at 112. And Warrensburg at 111. I mean, that is not something you see here.
Not even every other summer.
Definitely not every summer for sure. Elsewhere, Kinderhook 110, Herkimer 108, Albany 107.
Now there's significance for that, right? What was the highest we've had?
So
you were able to.
I confirmed a bunch last year.
Yep.
And I got to be honest with you, like I did it last year. I trust myself from last year. I'm not sure what I did.
Yeah, because heat index is one of those arbitrary things that they don't keep specific records of.
I don't know what I did. Mm-hmm. I know that's very shaky, and I kind of agree, but also I definitely trust myself last year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, based on the top 5 I made last year, 107, I think tied third highest index since 2000 for Albany at 107. So, again, not every summer. And there was a report from ABC that in New Jersey, which obviously not far away, obviously a little bit hotter than us here in the capital region, but I think like 25 people passed away from the heat.
And that's why we push this. We get the comments all the time. It's summer.
No, it's not.
It is summer, but
it's not normal for summer.
But this is not. When we're talking about heat indexes 105 to 115, that is dangerous heat, and people don't realize that. They're like, it's hot. It's supposed to be hot. It's summer.
I know.
I agree. It's supposed to be hot.
Not that
but
hot. It's as hot as it gets around here.
And it was extended period. It was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
No relief at night.
We had 94, 96, 93 from the 1st through the 3rd last week. So that was the air temperature. And then you factor in the humidity.
We had dew points as high as I've ever seen them, like upper 70s
upper
on
70.
Wednesday.
I think the highest I've ever seen here in Albany was 77 or 78.
That's what we got to.
So, and that was a couple years ago. So it does not happen every year.
No.
So put those comments away.
I really, and there's also another subset of people, just to finish on this topic, they say the heat index is fake. I go,
And it's not.
It's not. I'm like, you tell me the heat index is fake, and I tell you the sky is green, and you look at me like I'm crazy. But that's how I look at you when you tell me the heat index is
They
real.
sit there and they say, just say the heat index then, because that's the actual temperature. But it's not, because they are two different things. Now, if the dew point was 50, if we were 94 degrees, it would not have been 115 degrees, is what it felt like. So that's where it comes into. There's a calculation behind it, very much like a wind chill. It's only warm-blooded beings feel it.
So and one last thing, like if you had 96 degrees like we had on Thursday, but in like Tucson, Arizona, where the dew point was 14,
it might actually feel lower than 96.
It does. It does. It's literally it's a relation to the amount of moisture in the air, and the dew point is a major player.
If you're sweating and the dew point is 78 degrees, 77. You can't. You're going to sweat, but the air is not going to evaporate it off of you as quickly. So it's going to take longer to cool you off.
It's more taxing and more exerting.
Now, if you're in the desert Southwest,
it's the opposite.
Exactly. You're going to evaporate. You're not going to know that you're potentially getting dehydrated because you're not feeling that sweat being evaporated. You're feeling fine. You're cool. You're fine. So just one of those things. So. With that, I do want to bring us to the longest heat wave Albany has ever seen in recorded history. I need to stress that.
Yep.
8 days in a row at 90 or above, and 2 of those days reached 100.
It's the last time, right?
This was 1953, August 27th through September 5th. I mean, this is insane, right?
This was a beast.
I mean
we have 3 days, 98 and 100 and 100. I mean, I was honestly shocked when I looked into this last week that, like, we've only hit 98 or more here in Albany 3 times in the past 30 years. So, obviously, there's a lot of attention, and rightfully so, put towards 100 being so rare, not happening since this heat wave.
But 98 and 99 is very rare as well.
Yeah, I said as soon as I noticed it was 3 times in 30 years, I was like, well, I shouldn't have put 98 on the 7 day.
I was going to say, I didn't do the research. Was there a 99 in the last couple of years? I feel like
2022 got one.
Okay.
Yeah, so 98 plus. There was twice I hit 98 once. Or it might have been once 98, twice 99, or vice versa.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know since I've been here, it has happened.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how many
2022.
times. So, but I mean, it does get hot. Obviously, this was the 50s. Think about it. Air conditioning probably was not as widely used or as widely available
or as good,
as it is
quick,
now.
as efficient. One last thing here. I might have just lost it. Let's move on.
Okay.
Sorry.
One last thing here, and he forgot about it.
If it comes back to me, I mean, no.
So these are the longest heat waves in Albany history. So I apologize. That last one that I showed you, that was a 10-day heat wave. I don't know where I got 8 from.
Okay.
There's 9-day heat waves. I think we've only had 1 of each of those. Maybe 2 9 days. But then you get to 8, 1955. 7-day heat wave. Now, these are only the most recent occurrences. Yep. So 8-day heat waves, we've had only 3.
I know I have a graphic somewhere where it's the amount of heat waves of certain lengths.
You might have that.
I definitely talked about it last summer.
Actually, no, I do know we have the number of heat wave. There's something, I do know there's a graphic for that. 3-day heat waves, 1901, 1912, 1955. 7-day heat waves, there's only been 3. 1916, 1988, 1991. Now, obviously, a 7-day heat wave, we hit 8, we hit 9, we hit 10. This is only counting exactly 7 days.
Yes, and that's something I was trying to point out. One thing I'll say, and it does relate to the thought I tried to bring up last time and forgot about, is that during this stretch in 2022, which was the most recent 6-day heat wave, it was the last time before last summer that we had what was formerly the excessive heat warning issued in Albany, or at least by the office. I think it was just for Albany. Anyways, so we went 3 years between getting that, and of course now it's the extreme heat warning. That's kind of they've renamed a few of the things. That's one of the things they've renamed. But I was talking last summer about how it was the first time we had that alert since 2022, and of course now it's back-to-back summers where we've seen heat indices above 105, which is the criteria for an extreme heat warning. So
and they changed the criteria too, because it used to be it had to be a prolonged stretch of days.
Yeah.
Now it's any period or so. So it's much easier to reach that criteria. Not saying that it's not any less intense or less safe.
Well, they're trying to highlight a stretch of hours in the afternoon where it's dangerous, and it is. It is, and you could take precautions. You could still exist, but you have to respect it.
Yep.
And that's what I was kind of saying leading up to it. I'm like, you just have to respect it. Like, it's going to be as tough as it gets. So
6-day heat waves. We've only had 14. 2 of them came in 2022.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we had 2 in 2022. I remember that year.
Gosh.
So, and then 5-day heat waves, there's been 18. Most recent was July of 2011. So we have many, many 4-day and many, many 3-day. I just wasn't going to go in and count all those separately.
I mean, the three they both happened in the past year. Probably,
exactly. Well, we just had one. We just had a 3-day.
3-day,
so
not the 4. Anyways.
So now, with all that heat, it brings us to 7 90-degree days this year. A typical summer will usually yield around 11 in Albany. And comparing it to last year, we're actually one ahead.
So last year at this time. So we had a bunch in mid-July.
So now the average is through the end of July. So usually we only average 7 through the end of July. And then we'll pick up 4 in August or maybe September averages, maybe 1, So far for the month, we've had 3. This year, we've had 7. The average through the end of the month is 7. We might be adding to that based on some of the data I'm looking at today. And last year, we had 6 through this time.
This airs on Thursday. This could be a 90-degree day if everything goes right.
Thursday could be a 90-degree day, but I'm talking about next week.
25 degree.
Exactly. So
850.
And then 90-degree days in the last 10 years, Kevin.
Did you move this? Because
widely variable. Yes, I did change this. Widely variable, though.
Yes. I mean, look at 2021.
2021, we had that faulty sensor. So they do have the asterisk for that year because there were days that it got to 87, 88, 89, and we were all scratching our heads like, what is going on? Everywhere around the airport was 90, 91. We're not saying that it was crazy hot. But there's likely some days missing from that. But because the sensor was faulty, that's unfortunately the date that we have.
25?
2022 was, I thought it was going to make a run towards the most in 1955 at 32.
Wow. And then, of course, last year you were saying there was 7 up until this point in the year. We
in early July.
We ended up with 18, and I don't think a lot of those happened in August.
So we must have, July I think had 11.
Sorry, I got I had a bunch of emojis pop up on my iPad. I wasn't sure if they made
if it was going over the. No, July I think had 11 last year. And then August was just comfortable and
well, it makes
cool.
sense. I mean, I've talked a lot about the stretch of days that we had 69
July was a very
was
hot month last year.
Sultry. Anyways,
not sure. This might bring us to our. No, it doesn't. So heat waves, I should have put this in the heat wave section, but that's okay. I went through all the years from 1876 through last year. We average about 1.3 a year. I know that sounds ridiculous, but what did you say? Maybe
I put it into, we get 4 every 3 years.
There you go.
Yeah.
So there are some years that we do. Actually, there were multiple years going through all the data where it was we don't have any, or there's 1, or there's,
And then there's 5.
3 or 4. I think the most was
4.
Actually, no, there might have been 5. But that only happened once or twice. So it doesn't happen, obviously, very frequently at all. So I thought that was an interesting stat. So that brings us to our first break. I put little breaks in there now so we know when to go to break. When we come back, Kevin, we're going to talk about how tornadoes form and how microbursts form and how they are different. And we can kind of explain how the damage seen from them will look different. That's how they assess things. And then after that, we'll talk about all that rain that we've had over the last couple of days. Don't go away. And welcome back to Beyond the Forecast. Obviously, Kevin, we're going to talk about tornadoes first because that people know what a tornado is. You know what to look for. You look for the funnel. You say, "Oh my gosh, we need to take shelter." But what people may not know is how they form. So obviously, this is what we're looking at. So there's change in wind direction between the surface and the upper levels. It's not only wind direction, but sometimes it's speed. Yep. So you want to look for shear. That's what is the twist in the atmosphere that is going to provide the ability for these thunderstorms to rotate. Now, you won't see a tornado without a thunderstorm. You got to have a thunderstorm. You can have a dust devil. That's something totally different. But So you start to see this. You start to see that little column of air that's spinning, basically, but it's spinning horizontally. So this always happens. Not always. I shouldn't say that. This happens in a rotating thunderstorm. You're going to have that shear. This is how it starts. Then you introduce the updraft. I think it's going. And sometimes you will have two funnels, briefly. We're not going to get into all that because one of them will fall apart and the way it rotates and all that stuff. But once you start to see that updraft, that lift into the thunderstorm, it will shift that horizontal spinning column of air, and now it becomes vertical into the storm. And then you see what's known as a tornado. It's a condensation cloud. You'll see the funnel first. Sometimes you don't even see that it's like touching the ground if there's no debris or anything that's getting picked up. So that is that. Now, I don't think this shows the damage, but what you would look for damage and what the National Weather Service looks for with damage is if there's twist, right? If an area of trees is falling this way and also this way or different directions, that's indicative of there was probably some spinning air in here. Whereas a microburst is not like that. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Want to give you the update on the tornado reports across New York, Vermont, and Western Massachusetts.
They have danced around us.
Yes, they have. New York is up to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 this year, and Vermont has had 3. I think Vermont is above average. Lake Machias.
They had 2?
They have had 2 this year.
So is that 9 for New York?
Nope, it's 8. I counted 2.
I can't count.
Franklinville, right down the road, has had 1. Rockstream, Cortland, Pittsfield. Those were the 2 that were 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, Pittsfield was last week. It was a super. Me and Alyssa were watching a super cell out there for. I mean, it was there for 3. It was pretty much spinning for 3 hours, and ultimately it did produce a brief tornado. But
so the Cortland one then was the week before with the tornado watch.
That. Okay, I think that was us.
Then there's Croghan, Hammond. And then, of course, we've got the 3 in Vermont. One of them, I think, was in March.
Yeah, and I believe one of them originated in Washington County. We were watching that one
That was the Woodstock. Yes, I believe that was
Woodstock.
Because
we were like, oh, that's tightening up. Yep. And then it wasn't really a problem until it left our viewing area. So
now, New York does average tornado. Like, we do see tornadoes every year. So I just like to put this into perspective because people are like, what are we becoming the new, Tornado Alley? And it's like, it seemed that way a couple of years ago. I think I've got the tornado count over the last 10 years for New York.
Yeah.
Yep. So, again, there's really not any correlation. 2024 was a wild year. But we had multiple remnants of tropical stuff. And also, you got to think about it. 2015 to now, the accessibility of these.
Oh, yeah. Changed everything.
People seeing them, people reporting them. Before, if it happened in the middle of the woods, literally, think of how big the Adirondacks or the Catskills are where people don't live, where people don't live. You're not going to see it, and it's never going to get reported, know? And the technology with the radars have gotten so much better, too. They are detecting more than what they have in the past. So, but yeah, 2024 was a standout year. And that is the most that New York has seen in a year. So, fun stuff. All right, now we're going to talk about microbursts, if you want to take this one.
Yeah, so, kind of like a tornado, you need a strong thunderstorm to get that updraft going.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't have rotation. You can, but it's not necessary.
Does this not click at all, Rob?
I think it does.
Okay, I was going to say.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if you were able to.
Oh, no, I mean, I think
Okay.
I don't trust it.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah, so we actually see the updraft weaken a bit, and that's going to send the colder air into the middle of the storm. Heavy rain, there could be a hail core in that as well. And as we continue on here, we'll see that the downburst is basically the thunderstorm sending a really strong surge of its air, and it hits the ground and kind of, I think I hit the mic. Sorry about that. But I was trying to show that it essentially spreads out from the storm, but there's not like twist in it.
No.
Like that's
no,
why
everything is all
sets it
pushed
apart.
in one direction. Because these winds could be what? 70,
these are
80, 90
strong.
miles an hour.
These have an attitude. This is like a thunderstorm just
These
my
can
goodness.
almost be worse than tornadoes,
Oh,
really,
yeah.
because they're bigger.
Well, I would say like tornadoes are. I mean, listen, we don't get as many as like points west in the country, but tornadoes get a lot of attention, and they are not the biggest damage producer around here by a good amount.
They could be stronger.
Oh yeah.
With the winds, but it's more centralized as opposed to this.
These and just straight line winds are way a bigger player around here. So micro versus macro, they call it a microburst when it's kind of a concentrated area, 2.5 miles wide or less. So very localized. Macro, obviously a little bit bigger. Does it actually go? Oh, so if it's bigger than 2.5 miles, then they call it a macro burst, and that's got to be rarer, I would think. Rob.
I do think it's rare. I think it depends on the setup. I think we had one here a couple of years ago. Was that the one that hit Albany? I think you were here.
I was definitely here. I thought
was
that
that
was
a
micro.
macro or was it micro?
I thought that was a micro. Because if that was a macro, it would have been like all of Albany, wouldn't it?
Well, I thought it was like 4 miles. Like I wasn't sure. So
yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't go out in all directions.
Yeah.
So that is the thing too, So I think that's going to take us to our next break. I do want to leave time to talk about the rain, so we're going to go to a quick break. We will be right back with the significant rainfall from earlier this week. Don't go away. Well, welcome back to Beyond the Forecast. So, Kevin, we talked about heat. We talked about severe weather.
Yeah.
Along with some of that severe weather came a lot of rain.
And, I mean, honestly, what fell earlier this week, very much just regular rain,
Yes, locally.
Locally, yeah, there's some storms down to our south, but...
July rainfall so far, we're just going to put this into perspective for Albany.
Yeah.
Just over 1.5 inches. That was as of Wednesday morning.
Should be the same, unless you're watching this and it's actively storming.
Yes. The average is just shy of 1 inch. So we're running a little bit above. If you hear people say that we're in a drought,
not really
we're not.
here.
We're really not.
Now,
could be dry to the south and east, but they picked up a lot of rain over the last couple of days.
They got some help.
It's possible that has been slightly erased. So, Kevin, I'll let you take this away because you were forecasting this from this past weekend.
I'll tell you what, I got really worried on Sunday. I was here after the shows, and we were paying a lot of attention to 4th of July forecast. So this was day after 4th of July Sunday. I got in and I go, oh. And like all the guidance basically had this idea of a very thin band, like a thin north to south band of extreme rainfall totals. And some of the guidance that came in around midday, they didn't bring it into our viewing area, but they brought it so close that I was genuinely worried if the models are wrong by 20 miles and they're too far south. That's going to be like Tannersville and Southern Berkshire County, Southern Columbia County. So I kind of did a little Facebook video. So the models, they were not wrong too far north. They actually ended up being a little bit farther south than what the models were kind of
because we didn't see much rain locally at all on Monday.
Although what I'll say is that some of the guidance did nail the placement of this. Basically, what the signal was on guidance was there's going to be a very thin band that sets up that produces extreme rainfall, and on both sides of that, there's going to be far less rain.
It's just like winter forecasting.
And guidance, we're not at the point yet where we could really pin that down in advance. It's kind of annoying. We just have the idea that there's going to be...
You get an idea of within this zone...
There's going to be a thin band of extreme rainfall. I said that in my video. I'm like, I don't know where this sets up. I wish I did.
But it's the same thing with snow. If you have a deformation band...
Yeah. So this clearly set up to our south, and you could see that stripe of yellow and orange coloring from northeastern PA across the lower Hudson Valley and into parts of Connecticut.
Now, when you go from green to yellow, it's 2 inches plus.
Yes.
So just putting that out there
But
for reference.
even in that band, there was such an extreme drop-off in amounts. Otisville, that Maisonette site down there, I'm sorry, 8.65. And this says 3-day rainfall total because they haven't picked up anything in the past 24 hours, really the past 24 hours. So this all fell in 48 hours down there. Tannersville, I would call that the southern extent of our viewing area. It might go slightly farther south from there, but about 2.
But look at that point in
Berkshire County,
eastern Jersey or eastern Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Not far from Otisville.
Good point.
Still a lot of rain.
Yeah.
But less than 3.5 inches. I say that as if it's not a lot of rain.
That's a ton of rain.
When you're going from 8.5 to 3.5,
talking about
that's a big change.
5-inch difference in a couple of miles.
Exactly.
Pittsfield 2.28, Albany about 2/3 of an inch, 0.65.
And most of that was from yesterday.
Yes. And like overnight into Tuesday, right?
Yep.
And then you get to the Adirondacks, they're like, what?
Nothing.
What do you mean it rained over 8 inches downstate?
Listen, on Tuesday, I was talking to my weather watchers in the Adirondacks. They were like, "Oh, it's a beautiful day." And I was like, "I wish we could have had some of that down here."
Nuts. And I do want to point to one more thing, just south of New York City.
Yep.
Bullseye in the ocean, thankfully. But that looks like it could have been similar rainfall amounts to
7-8
Otisville.
inches. Yeah.
If that was 10, 15 miles farther north,
You would have been hearing
horrible.
about all of those reports of the subways being flooded, and
It would have been horrible. And it still wasn't a walk in the park down there because they had a lot of rain even before this 3-day window that we were talking about on Wednesday goes back to Sunday afternoon.
Yep.
Saturday, 4th of July, they were getting a ton of rain there too. So there would not have been a lot of places for that water to go. So thankfully, in this case, the bullseye set up just south of the city because that would have been really bad.
And this was beneficial because parts of the northern mid-Atlantic, parts of New England really needed the rain. They were in exceptional or severe drought.
Yep. Way worse than us. Way worse.
So it did fall where it was needed. Now, we won't get an update until the day this airs, so maybe we'll show the drought monitor next week.
Could.
Just to give a little bit of an update on where it's needed.
We'll
but locally, I don't think we don't really need it locally. I think we're pretty good. So
it definitely helped.
Exactly.
Beneficial.
You don't want to see it going weeks and weeks. And with all the heat last week, this rain really did help.
I just can't get past 8.65. Some of the models were, I'm looking at totals like 10 inches, 11 inches. I'm like, wow. And it was, again, some of the guidance that I was looking at Sunday afternoon had it in northern Ulster and northern Dutchess. Again, so close to us. It's set up south. Obviously, we're grateful locally, but then it becomes somebody else's problem.
Exactly.
And there's now almost 9 inches of fresh rain in Otisville. So
I'm sure the terrain there is not a good thing either.
Yeah.
Everything has to trickle down. All right, Kevin, another great episode this week. I don't know what we'll talk about next week. I guess we'll have to...
Surprise.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens over the next couple of days. That always usually gives us inspiration. So hopefully you guys have a great weekend. Stay cool. It's going to be great. Low humidity the way it looks right now. The weekend looks fantastic. Some heat and humidity, though, may return for next week. So
We'll talk about
that later. But in the meantime, have a great weekend.